architectural fees, those types of things that really don't go to any one department.
We don't really have any building projects per se, do we, coming up?
Not right now, no.
And, well, you're always hoping you don't have any labor issues, so. We're just looking at the last 2 years. We've apparently spent significantly less. 15 seems to cover most of it.
Has covered. So.
I mean, that might
Well,
be
if
a
it's not
little,
budgeted and we go over, we pay for it, so it's.
right.
That's all it comes down to.
I'm just
So
thinking of a way to, make up for that investment earnings shift. At least it seems like an area where we're currently not spending as much.
Sounds good, let's try 15,000, I'm just fine with that.
And of course, 6379 is kind of a fill in the blank at the end of the process to
Yep.
make adjustments or whatever.
That's my adjustment line.
Yeah.
And then property liability, that's, again, an approximate guess where we're at. I don't have the information yet, obviously. That doesn't come usually till later. So
Well, you
it's
watch the
getting
news
closer and closer to that all the time.
I was gonna say, you watch the news every day about all these disasters, and you just think, God, I bet some of those are going up too, I suppose.
The biggest changes in MCIT insurance is in jail incidents,
Right.
and those are getting very expensive, in the
Thankfully.
millions of dollars.
Thankfully, we haven't had any issues
No,
there.
thankfully, we haven't, but all it takes is one, so that's,
Right.
and then we do get a dividend, but I don't budget the dividend because I don't know how much it's going to be. I
Right,
keep that
right.
low. It's like, we know there has always been one, doesn't mean there always will be though from MCIT, so.
See, there is a road construction and non-departmental.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I budgeted the insurance dividend virtually the same as last time. We got 38,413. I budgeted 38 again. I think that's going to keep us close. That's 5813 under the 003. And workers' comp has remained relatively static, but the property liability is the one that's been increasing.
Mm-hmm. Wayne, you want to come up?
Sure. Page 41, 40, excuse me. Anything you want to share, Wayne, what we're doing coming up for the next year?
Most of them, I left them the same. I increased a few of them.
Of course,
Cell phones I
salaries,
increased.
now you've got another worker with you. Salaries you increased, I assume?
Yes. Yep, salaries increased. Salary increased, so then of course insurance and para and Social Security and all them increased. I know sewer and water I left the same.
Do you have any major projects you're considering for next year?
The biggest one to be here, I don't think we got a bid back yet on that, have we, Steve?
4.
The air conditioner and upgrading and,
No, but I have an estimate of between 650 and 700,000.
That's for the,
Full upgrades to the courthouse building to go to VAV boxes. This is finally to the expensive part of the project. We've done all the cheap stuff.
Yep.
So now we're into the expensive stuff. I did apply, have no idea if we'll get anything through the State Historic Preservation Grant. I put in for about 200,000 to help us for that. And they have 750,000 statewide total to give away. So I did my best to get something in there, and we'll see what happens.
We could potentially use COVID money for that.
Yes. Yes, we can use ARPA money for this project.
So that won't affect our budget.
Correct.
Will that equipment be available?
Who knows?
That I can't tell you.
Yeah, I can't tell you neither. Nope.
Is that something that needs to be done next year? Pretty much, or
Whenever you can get the products.
Yeah, whenever we
assuming you
it,
can get the product?
Yeah.
And get the workers scheduled.
Yeah. It's, as Bill said, it's changing everything over from the pneumatic systems throughout the whole buildings. The thermostats on the wall all become digital. It's replacing air conditioner units.
Both, yeah,
Both
both air
are AC
conditioners go
units.
to one unit.
Yeah. And then switch to a chilled water system versus condenser units.
Yep.
And then everything in the courthouse goes to what they call VAV boxes. Instead of one big box that splits it off, each area would have their own box to their own thermostat for heating and cooling that way. So a lot more efficient than having a great big plenum and just splitting it off. Very similar to what you have at your house, actually, is what we've got, only you can just, instead of you turning the knob on your register, these have just pneumatic controllers that can adjust the flow on the big units upstairs. But so that's why we figured we didn't really want to try to put that in the budget. So it's like, if we get grant money, that's great, and we can use ARPA money for that as well.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, I put down the same as last time. I put 250,000 down.
Yep.
And what were you thinking of using that for?
Help pay for that.
Oh, but I mean, if we use that COVID money,
Yeah, then we got carpet and
Yeah. Some
a
updating
bunch
to
of
do.
other
places.
updating to do.
and I suppose we've never gotten a bid yet on that painting project and,
Nope.
no.
Well, I got one. It was 38,000.
Courthouse.
38,000.
Courtroom.
I did
38,000 is the lowest bid I got.
It's an unreasonable bid.
Yep.
Couldn't even
But this other
consider it.
company come and looked at it, but I haven't heard nothing back from them.
I did have a meeting this week with a representative from Wold Architects, and we toured the whole courthouse, and I said, if you can do one thing for me, you're in this business, find somebody that can paint our ceiling in the courtroom. But we've been putting this off for,
Either that or
since I started
strip
this.
it back.
We
Right.
can't get anybody to either get back or give some crazy bid, and we don't have anything to compare it to. So, just hate to see paint peeling off the
We
ceiling.
had the perfect opportunity when the courts were shut down.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. I had no way to get anybody to do anything during 2020, unfortunately, so.
Otherwise, even for fairgrounds, like the only thing I really increased was water and sewer.
There really aren't any building projects there being.
Well, just the blue building. We might do some remodeling there, but otherwise, there shouldn't be for anything else.
Restrooms?
Restrooms, yeah.
Yeah, windows, restrooms, blue building needs an update.
Yep.
We did the roof, was that 3 years ago we did the roof?
That's
Yes.
been longer than that.
Probably about 5.
Yeah, over that probably 6, 7.
My first year on the board.
All left.
Yep.
But yeah, there certainly are some needs there at the
Mm-hmm.
blue building. Some other items you've done recently, I like that concrete curb and so forth, some of that stuff,
Yeah.
it's spruced up real nice, it's looking good.
I mean,
Shouldn't have to fix that again.
but just the restrooms alone, it costs more than what you got budgeted, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I suppose we could take some stuff out of the Brown School.
Yeah, ultimately, I think we can pare down the 250 out of there and move some more towards fairgrounds projects if we need to
Yeah.
as well.
Just shift some funds.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, those toilets need updating.
Yeah.
We had a lot of problems with them during the fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about we back off 6605 out of building and plants to 200? And then move 50 over to the fairgrounds for 6605 there. I have no idea what the bathrooms are gonna cost, but we'll put that as a placeholder for right now.
Yeah, 'cause the only thing I got prices on was the urinals. I didn't get prices on everything else.
And on the second, or on page 44, that building improvements, that must be for just small stuff, or since we haven't used it the last couple of years?
Mhm.
Which one are you looking at? Look, I'm sorry.
6605, the
Out of
5,000.
fairgrounds?
Yeah,
I think a lot of it ultimately went to 6301.
Yep.
Calling it, it's fixing
Yep.
things versus
right.
updating things. There's a lot of repairs, so most of the money went out of
Yep.
that. If you look at 21, we spent over 43,000 to maintain out there.
Right.
So
And so we didn't do anything the year before, so this year it cost us more.
Sure.
We didn't have fair last year.
Okay. Any other questions for Wayne?
No.
Thank you.
we'll take a breather.
Sure, yeah, we'll recess for a few minutes. Okay, we are back in session. We're gonna look at accepting the resignation of the auditor treasurer.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Second.
Second, any discussion?
Other than wish him well in his new endeavors.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Procedure to fill the position.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have before you also have County Attorney Demaine Sandy here. I have a timeline that I put together to explain what is going on, what the recommendations are. So as of today, the vacancy in the office has been accepted by the county board, so you can check that one off your list. So the next item would be to adopt Resolution 59-25-21, which you have a copy of in front of you, assuming the board wants to make this an appointed position. You remember we had this discussion back in 2019, and at the advice of the county attorney at that time, because we didn't have a vacancy in office and Tyler was currently the auditor treasurer, that we had to wait according to state law until the election time came up, basically, the filing time.
In a way, yeah.
In a way, I'm paraphrasing, but, and so at this point, we now have a vacancy in office, so this allows that procedure to begin now if the board so chooses. So we would publish this for 2 consecutive weeks, and on the 14th, we would have a 10 a.m. public hearing allowing testimony to the county board from the public with the intention to appoint the position. On the 14th as well, after the testimony is done at the public hearing, the board would vote either to approve the resolution to go ahead with the appointment of the auditor treasurer, or at that point, if the board chose, they could do it as, leave it the way it is and appoint someone temporarily and have that person run for election, basically.
That's it.
So if the board does approve that, Then on 9/14/21, time clock starts for the public, and they would have 30 days to overturn your action by collecting a 10% of eligible voters, which is approximately 540 to 550 voters, depending on the number at the time. So that would have to be done by voters that didn't want that to happen, and they would bring that, once those signatures were verified, they'd bring it back, and if there was enough voters that said we did not want that to happen, the appointment process would end there and be rescinded, and would basically go to appointment to fill out the term, and we'd have an election.
Yes,
Pretty much, okay?
that's correct.
Okay. So, and if that went through, we didn't have a reverse referendum to do that the same day that you accepted it, 9/14. 3 years from there, which would be 3 years, 9/14/24, that would be the earliest the board can adopt a resolution to provide for an election of the office that was made appointed. So there's a time frame in there that can revert it back again. That was all part of the law that went into effect back in 2019, to the legislature, basically. Domain, please add anything you'd like, Mr. County Attorney.
You're doing fine.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would like to move that we do adopt Resolution 592521, making the auditor treasurer an appointed position.
I will support that motion.
And we are adopting it, or we are just putting it out for publication?
You're
We're adopting the
this-
resolution. The first step is we have to adopt a resolution before we move forward. It's the first step in the process.
Okay.
And in discussion, I guess, my reasoning behind moving this resolution, as we've talked in the past, the job itself is a very detailed, very intense job. And I know as times have changed throughout the years, I just think it's time that we do it because of the level of knowledge that the individual needs to do this job effectively. And also, you know, you think about it, it's not really fair for a person who has dedicated their life, their career, to be on the whims of a vote every 4 years. It's not a political position. It's a highly technical position. And also the staff that works there. It's not for the staff not to know who their boss is going to be next time the election comes around. I think for the continuity of services that we have and the level of expertise it takes, I think it's time that we make this step. And with this opportunity now, first of all, of course, from having combined the auditor and the treasurer into one, we've talked about this in the past, and knowing that when Tyler's term were to be expired, that we'd be looking at that time. Well, this certainly has moved that time frame up with his resignation, so now his term has now ended when we accept his resignation. So I think now is a logical time to do it, and I think it's a step forward for our community. And to address the question of accountability, especially now that we've got a county administrator, it's not like the auditor treasurer has to answer to the 5 of us commissioners. He answers to our administrator. So that way there's continuity there as far as oversight. He's not having to be aware of any political circumstances of any decision he makes. His is based on the facts of what needs to be done for the job. So I think it's time for us to do this. That's why I promoted this.
Well, there's no doubt the job has gotten to be very complex over the years. And under the current arrangement, there's really no oversight, at least none that we would have, because if you're elected.
You're answerable to the electorate.
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
What are we going to do in the meantime until the position is filled? Because the work will continue.
My understanding is we need to appoint a interim.
We have a recommendation for that, but can we wait?
I would recommend that we take up the resolution here and then discuss that.
Okay.
Let's get this dealt with first, then we
Any
can
other
talk about
comments
plans.
or-
Unless
Just
county attorney has something to add.
where you're going with the resolution right now, the statute says before you can formally adopt it, you got to publish and have the public hearing.
Correct. Yep.
So I mean, is your motion just to Start the process.
Start the process.
Start the process of adopting the resolution.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
just
that
want to
was my
verify.
question earlier. I guess we're not actually adopting it yet. We're
You're,
posting it for publication, and then,
basically, you're directing Steve to publish.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing at this point.
This is the public notice.
That's it.
And next step will be, we'll have a public hearing here on September 14th to invite the public in to discuss positives, negatives, whatever they want to talk about this at that time. Then you
after
make the
that, when we
decision.
vote to approve or deny the appointment,
That's
that's when we're actually approving the resolution.
Nope, there'll be another resolution.
That's a separate one, yeah.
Separate
This
resolution.
resolution is to start the process,
Correct.
is what I understand.
Okay.
There'll be a separate resolution once that's
Part of this
taken care of.
resolution is the public hearing part and the
Okay.
timeframe. So it's two separate resolutions.
I just need to clarify.
Yep.
Yep. This is only, let's start the process is what we're doing here.
Any other questions or comments?
We need another E in the first whereas.
Yeah,
It's done. Already changed it.
Thank you.
Chairman Johnson found that, so that's been changed, so. This was in your packets last week, so I've already got it changed
Thank you.
for his signature, and that's a good copy, so thank you for finding it too.
any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Which one needs a supermajority? Is that this one or the next one?
I think it's the next one. Part of the process, I believe, has to be a 4.
Well, if it's unanimous now, we don't have to worry about
Right.
it anyway.
Right.
Okay, but
This one needed a 4. at
this
least
one needed a
votes.
4 for 5 also.
Okay.
But both of them do, yeah.
Okay, so now we're back to, what do we do for the interim?
Our recommendation would be for the board to appoint County Administrator Steve Ewing as the interim auditor treasurer. That way the employees have a leader to get them through this time period for the next few months. Also, I understand that they need a point person for document flow. I know Marianne talked about that with her office, that there needs to be a point person. We need to get started on the process of appointing someone to that so they are in place in time for the August 27th deadline. So our recommendation is to appoint County Administrator Steve Ewing as the interim auditor treasurer.
What's the August 27th
That's
deadline?
when Tyler will be done, so he can no longer have his signature.
Oh, right, right. I guess I just want to throw, I have a different possibility in mind. I'm wondering if we could appoint Steve as the interim auditor and potentially reach out to Steve Weitz and appoint him as the interim treasurer until the position is filled. Because that way you'd have somebody in each office that actually has done that office work in the past. I don't know for sure, although I spoke to Steve this morning, and I would say he's potentially open to the possibility, but he wouldn't give me a firm commitment yet.
I would recommend that be just taken under advisement at this time and make a decision now, and we can determine that at a later time. Personnel committee can discuss that if it wants to, and then come back with that. I don't think that should just come right out here now. I think we need to go ahead with, and I'm willing to do it. I'm not asking for any extra salary. Just so we have a point person, I can be signed up for the recorder's office for e-documents, the filing. Marianne's nodding her head. It's internal. I think that possibility may exist to have Mr. Weitz come in, but I think that we should examine that a little further and not make a big decision on that today at this point. We have time to go forward. We had a very good constructive meeting with Kathy and I in the department personnel from the Auditor Treasurer's office. They're on board with having myself be up there. Granted, I don't know all the things in the Treasurer's office. I do have some experience from the Auditor's office. I'm willing to do it. And I want to just make sure that we have good continuity here. And it's relatively for a short period of time. I'm hoping 90 days that we're looking at this. By the end of, hopefully in November, we can have this person on board. And I think that's a good way to proceed at this point before we go out and find somebody for a short term.
And it is a combined office now.
Yep.
So I guess,
Right, I understand that, but I'm just looking at having somebody in each office that knows what to do.
I think I would concur with Steve's comment, though, again, that this is a relatively short interim period until we actually find and appoint a permanent appointee. And we've got terrific staff that's working in those offices already, and we've already gone through the steps of combining these. So I think to split them back up again, I think would be counterproductive.
I mean, I think you would have Steve in charge yet. I mean, I'm not trying to take away from that aspect of it. But I mean, just to have a body to do the work that knows what to do already. I mean, you're going into tax time and, you know, there's gonna be stuff to do. They're already overburdened from,
But our administrator already has been quite involved in the combining process of the two, and he's got an awareness of what it takes to be both the treasurer and the auditor. It's not like he's coming in unaware of what it takes, and again, we got a good staff there. So I think to bring somebody back in from retirement, I think that would just muddy the waters. I don't know if that'd be a good situation. Not taking anything away from Steve Weeds. He did a terrific job for us for a lot of years, and I really appreciate the fact that he showed the willingness to consider that. But I think, you know, this is hopefully, again, a short interim period. We're not talking months and months of this, so.
no, right. And I think that's the only reason he was even willing to consider it, because he had no interest in the long-term
Yeah,
anything.
well, that's nice of Steve to be willing to do that.
But
Steve Weeds to be willing to
I
do
just
that.
thought it might be a way to, you know, I mean, because, you know, Steve's got other things to do too, as far as that goes.
and if I may.
I have plenty to do, but that's okay.
So in reviewing the next 3 months' priorities in the two offices, the biggest thing that they're concerned with is tax calc and getting someone certified in tax calc. Sandy is currently working on that, but that is going to take some time. Steve Weeds isn't certified in tax calc. It may be actually more beneficial to bring back Janet Bauman as somebody that could assist if she's willing to do that. And again, I haven't had any conversations with her because she is certified in tax calc. So I think just making the decision to bring someone back without really looking at what the work and priorities are over the next 3 months is pretty.
And that makes sense, yeah.
So.
I'm not saying I know the operation of fully, because I do not. I'm just thinking of, you know, can we get somebody in there that knows what they're doing?
Yeah.
I don't care who it is, but.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Mr. Chairman. We have very good support staff. Pam and Lori know their jobs. They
Oh,
know
no, I
exactly
know
what's
that.
going
It's not
on
that,
and
but
what
I
to
mean, I
do.
think they also need assistance. I
Yeah.
mean, they can't do it by themselves, is all I'm saying.
Well,
Especially if one of them has vacation or whatever, you're down to then one, and
Right.
it makes it pretty tough to keep an office going.
And just along with that, I'm planning to work a little more too to assist with Steve, so he frees up a little bit of time for him to help with them too. So I guess our recommendation right now before the board is to appoint Steve Ewing, but you guys can have more discussion too. But that would be our current recommendation.
Yeah. Do we need to take formal action on that, I assume? So-
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make one, defer to County Attorney Sandy to make sure that that's in order to do that temporarily.
As far as I can see,
Okay.
you can do that.
Because we have to have somebody's name on the documents.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't just let it sit idle.
Right.
Somebody has to sign the paychecks.
That's part of it, but the key is you just need someone in the office in an interim position.
Right.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we appoint Steve Ewing to fill the position.
I will second that.
Any further discussion?
I think if Kathy agrees to help take over some of Steve's administrator-type duties, and I'm sure she has done, you've worked with her closely in the past, and she knows what some things has to be done too, so.
And then we also,
We've got
We're
good
fortunate.
staff.
We are very fortunate.
Yeah.
And I would assume that these people here are in favor of it, otherwise they would be up and screaming, so. Right? Is that, he smiles back there, so.
Mr. Chairman and board members also, Kathy has also pointed out she's very willing to help with payroll too, as Sandy is still learning her job as well, and you know, we'll do everything we can to support those offices up there from our area down here as well. And we'll garner support from other department heads, and Joyce can help too, and Nicole, everybody will make sure that we get through this as well as we can for the next, hopefully 3 months till we get somebody back in line here. I'm not gonna let anything sink.
Good. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It'll be fine.
I've got faith in you.
We'll get the job done.
Got it on that then?
What's that?
Anything else on?
Not at this point. So I've got my orders, what I have to do, so next thing you'll see is in the newspaper.
Start the procedure.
Kathy's got things, but as far as what we're doing here today, that'll show up in the paper.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
What I need done for my end of things is the approval of the draft job description that's been presented to you guys. If this does go through as an appointed position on September 14th, I want to be ready to start advertising immediately to get somebody in here. In order to do that, I need to have the job description rated and a pay plan recommendation appointed basically by our compensation consultant.
So this job description, that this is for the permanent appointee, this isn't for...
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And how does this compare to what we had for job description with Tyler?
He doesn't have a job description
There
because
was
he's
none.
Hasn't gotten that
elected.
point
Because he's
yet.
elected.
He's elected.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We never developed one. When we combined those two offices, we never had a specific job description. Okay, that
Right.
makes sense.
Yep.
No one elected has one,
Yeah.
correct?
Do we have to take action on this now, or can we mull this over for a while?
I'd really, if,
We should take action.
We should,
To
yes.
keep
If you
things
can,
moving
it'd be
forward,
nice.
moving. Okay.
I make a motion to move ahead with this.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Where did you glean this different things from then through
Tyler reviewed it, looked through it, Steve and I looked at it. We had, I think, 3 or 4 sample job descriptions from various counties that we used to develop this job description, so.
It's basically the same one that we were looking at when we were getting ready to appoint the last time.
Yeah,
We had this all
exactly.
developed.
Yeah, all in all, the timing actually worked out pretty well for us on all of this. So.
Any other questions or comments?
Do we need a motion on this one?
It's
We have
unmade.
Les and Chris have made the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any guess? Any?
Oh, yeah, I can go over kind of the timeline. So, if the appointment gets approved on September 14th, I'm gonna start advertising immediately. Probably advertise for 2 to 3 weeks. Probably advertise both locally and statewide. AMC website, their professional website, so like Mako and I think it's called McCatfo. Websites, and hopefully do interviews somewhere along the line in October and get someone in here mid-November that's my goal,
So be ready for the
mid-November at
start
the
of the year.
latest.
Okay.
Be nice to get them a little bit sooner, but
Would it
Everything
be
takes a little bit of
premature
time.
to start advertising before we actually go through the public hearing process and so forth? That we don't want to discount the voice of the people on this by jumping the gun?
Either way, you're gonna have to put someone in the office, whether or not it's an appointed position or to fulfill the term, you're still gonna be interviewing and looking for someone who's qualified.
Yeah.
You might as well start sooner than later. Get the ad out there.
What do you think of that, Kathy? See any pitfalls in that?
I think we could. Yeah, it's just a matter of letting the candidates know one way or another, like after September 14th, if you're gonna get more interest if they know it's not gonna be elected. I'm fairly certain of that. Because
Definitely.
they're not going to want to run for election in 16 months or whatever it is.
Even though they know that already we've got a unanimous vote thus far to make this
Yeah.
an appointed position, and it's a technicality because of the time constraints. And even through the hiring process we'd never have a candidate ready to go by September 15th anyway. So if you don't think it would scare anybody off, it doesn't hurt to get her name out there and start looking at candidates.
Okay, I can do that.
That's just my opinion.
Disagree
You guys
with
feel the
that.
same
Sooner
way
we can
too,
get
or-
it going, the better.
We already have an appointment right here.
Yeah,
Might as
we've already
well
got an appointment here. So,
advertise for another one.
you know.
Okay.
You're not going to apply for this, are you, Steve?
No, sir.
So the thing is, I'm gonna have to wait, and I appreciate you approving the job description. I'm probably gonna have to wait till I get a pay range.
Oh, yes. Yep, that I understand.
But,
Yeah, you won't get anyone to apply if they don't know what they're gonna
Yeah.
get paid.
No.
But basically, just give you the latitude to get the process started, and great.
yeah, that sounds great, thank you.
We have an idea where we think it may be, but we don't, it's not a for sure, so,
Get it formally done.
right.
Well, we'd have to accept that then,
Yes.
too.
Yeah, board would have to accept anyway.
Yep.
Well, in the past, it's always a challenge to say, where are we going to find somebody? We're going to go out and look, and we've had great success in bringing good people in. So that's always reassuring to know that we can backfill these positions with good people.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Renee?
Dwayne, any parting comments?
It's always interesting.
Anything down, no?
Took a note somewhere on one of these pages.
Oh, before we get started, Mary Ann, can you come up for a minute? There's one item she needs to have the board take care of. It's regarding e-filing and having the board approved to have my name on it.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
She's gonna be looking for, I don't know how to actually term what domain, am I acting auditor treasurer, temporary auditor treasurer? I don't know what to call it, actually.
Acting,
Acting? Okay.
yes.
And like I explained to Steve when I met with him last week, is Tyler's going to be gone on August 27th, but come August 30th, we're going to have to be able to e-record. And I know when Jody came, it took Tyler Technologies about half a day to get her stamp fixed. So we're going to have to put stamps for every employee in the auditor and the treasurer's office. That's going to have to include then the verbiage for Steve. And so that's exactly, I think it'd probably be appropriate to put a motion in order that he is, his name will be on the documents, and also what verbiage we actually want on the stamps. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
And do you
Have a
know,
recommendation on the verbiage?
yeah.
As the main acting auditor treasurer.
Okay.
And then his signature is usually on there, or do you want a printed signature?
No, I'll print it, or I'll write it, whatever you
Okay.
want done.
Yep.
If there's a card or something, or electronic or whatever, I can
We'll send
come
it all
sign
out to them. We'll have to get new signatures for every employee in there then, with Steve's name above it then, so.
Okay, well, I will make that motion then with that verbiage that Steve will be, his official title will be acting auditor treasurer, and it will authorize the stamps to be made.
Okay.
I will second the oral.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then I'll get started on them, so they're in place on August 30th.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will you need a copy of the motion from the minutes at some point, or not?
Probably. would,
Okay.
but-
Facetiously, I'd like to also add to that Grand Poobah as well as acting, but that's okay. I think Steve would make a great Grand Poobah.
Sounds like the Flintstones where we all wear our water buffalo hats. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dwayne.
Afternoon.
Okay.
Hello. I didn't make a lot of changes to my budget. There were some, but not anything too terribly drastic.
Let us grab a page number here.
You have to have a page number first. 47. Les knows everything.
And I have a little copy of her
Her Christmas
information she
list?
sent.
You're stealing it off Steve's, aren't you? Yeah. Can't fool me. It's 114 pages long, so we gotta have direction.
Let me know when you're ready.
Go ahead.
All right, so The changes that I made were the, expected salary increases to include the step increases and cost of living. That budget for salaries went from $47,309 to $48,521. For the insurances, the expected increases, that went from $8,900 to $9,200. PRA, see, it was $3,513. It jumped to $3,639. And in the budget, I rounded all figures to the nearest dollar.
Renee, can you move your mic toward you?
Sorry. Let's see.
She's soft-spoken.
Sorry.
No, she isn't. Get her mad.
Don't want to see that. For Social Security, that was budgeted at $2,900. We increased that figure to $3,008.27. Medicare, it was originally budgeted $679 with an increase to $703.55. Also rounded to the nearest dollar. Telephone and cell phone, there was a memo about an expected 6% increase. So with that increase, I decided to leave the figure that I had originally budgeted the same with a $350 space in the budget, just in case cell phone costs increase. Then we were still within our budget. For printing, publishing, and advertising, that was probably the biggest change. I originally budgeted $5,500 for advertising. Last year I did advertising with Dex YP, and that was about $1,500. We did not have very good success with that. They have a tracking system that lets me know how many people actually saw it. And there wasn't a lot of traffic, so I decided to take that out. So I decreased the original budget from $5,500 to $4,500 due to the elimination of that advertising. But I still am advertising with Christensen Broadcasting and the Pipestone Star. I have done my contract with Christensen Broadcasting to do the military Sundays and advertising of or sponsoring the Star Spangled Banner at the games. For maintenance, building, and repair, last year we budgeted $1,000 and our actual spending is at $2,100. I'd like to increase this figure to $2,500 to make sure that we can stay within budget. And then the mileage. This program has been a very good success working with UCAP and making sure veterans have transportation to their doctor appointments. The pattern seems to be that every quarter I'm spending about $400 on transportation, and so I want to budget $1,600 instead of $1,500 to make up for that quarterly figure. So,
have you seen any increases there with the price of gas and stuff?
no, they have kept our mileage at 60 cents a mile as long as we prepay.
Okay.
If we don't prepay, then it'll jump up to about $1. And I told them that wasn't happening, so.
The IRS get that straightened out as far as the taxable nature of volunteer. I think they finally got that resolved because that was rather punitive at first, so, yeah.
Other than that, all my other figures have remained the same. Our total budget was $82,960. It is increased to $86,109, with a difference of $3,149, about a 1% increase.
Mr. Chairman, for the benefit of Dallas, items on Renee's budget, for instance, water, sewer, electricity, fuel, garbage, maintenance and repair, equipment, and snow removal are all shared in thirds over there.
Portion of the EMS building.
Portioned out to emergency management, EMS, and veteran service. So that's why.
Figured there was some reason.
Yeah, that's why, obviously those costs are more, but since we do it split it out, we've done that for years over there, and it seems to work very well. So just one budget taking the whole hit out of it.
Also, Steve, refresh my memory, the boiler over there, was that replaced or that still needs to be replaced?
The boiler system right now is in good shape. We totally upgraded the whole system over there. As long as Johnson Controls still has parts for those boilers we have, they'll keep them going. But if they go out, they'll have to replace them.
Yeah, because that's what I was wondering if we had.
That's why we have that contract
We had
over
enough
there.
budgeted here for that.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No, they're still working well.
Those boilers, so.
The biggest thing that was done this year, maintenance and repair wise, I believe, was the mini split in the boiler room, basically to keep the temperature down,
Ambient, yep.
especially in the winter time. It gets too hot in there for Bill's IT equipment in there. So that's probably the biggest expense we did over there, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was a year or two ago we did all the thermostats and
Right.
when Johnson Controls was in there, made sure everything was working. But the two boilers are original from the building. It's from a Canadian company. It was Munchkin is the name of it. There's two about 70,000 BTU hot water boilers. It's not steam. It's just it's a very hot water system. So when those go out and they can't get parts for them, they will have to be replaced. And Johnson Controls has already said when that goes out, they'll be putting one in there instead of two. So
there really aren't any maintenance type
not really. Not that I've seen. Unless Casey comes down with something that we don't know about. And I'm sure you talked to Casey about stuff anyway. Was there anything?
Not that I know
have
of.
the buildings in good shape, the roof is in good shape yet, as far as I can tell. Wayne was running around with Tremco. As soon as we get their report, we should know, but we entered use of that building in '08, August of '08, we moved in, so,
I know it's not that old yet, but.
Not overly, but time goes fast.
Then also Renee or Steve, could you refresh my memory on the 50% share with emergency management? Exactly how does that work? I don't recall.
So 50% of my salary comes from VSO, 50% my salary comes from emergency management. So both Casey and I have to budget 50% for me.
Okay.
In both of our departments. And that also, I believe, goes for Danielle as well.
So this figure here is a representation of 50% of that.
Correct.
Yeah, Danielle's is 30, 30, 30, and 10. 10 of it goes to maintenance, the other 30 goes over to the EMS, EM, VSO.
Yep. Okay.
And that doesn't necessarily relate to exact hours and things like that to go to the budgets, or because it just,
This is a placeholder.
it's just a placeholder, it keeps it going, so that there's always a cost share on it though.
And that also includes the insurances and PRA
Right,
and all of
yep.
that as well.
Yep, you're so right.
Any other questions?
I have none.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just like to make a comment that, thank you for paying some more extra attention to Edgerton area. I know you came for the Chamber of Commerce one day and spoke before that, and you came and spoke at the Memorial Day services, so thank you for doing that. It's good to include us down in that other corner too, so
Absolutely.
thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, did you want to go back and look at 003? Any further,
Sure.
board members? Let's just start on page 5 and we'll just run through it that way. As far as for changes made, first page on page 5, down to 5012 wind energy tax, we are getting $630,000 a year for that, up from our 450. So I put that full amount in there, so.
When does the 2021 allotment come?
I believe that's already here.
Oh, it is.
Is that all
I believe, I
county?
don't know that it's hit here yet, but I believe it's here.
That's all. wind
Question, is that
production
all
tax.
county, or is that some, that has to be funneled to the
No,
townships?
they get their own.
This is all
our
county.
cut.
Okay.
It's about 869,000 ultimately that goes to the county for wind and solar. and the rest is split out to the townships.
Remember, don't townships like 20%?
Percent.
If I remember right.
Yep.
You know, earlier we were talking about, you know, earmarking money for roads and so forth, and I know, of course, we use part of this for our cleanup of our blighted property. Do we want to consider maybe starting to earmark some of this towards roads as well, too, instead of just being dumped straight into the general fund? Or is that going to be too convoluted?
Wait until we get some of this central taken care of.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
How much do we have left on that, do you know?
Can't be much,
Can't
another
be.
year.
How much now?
I think it's more than that,
School cleanup.
because we just started,
We're bills are gone.
well, I know we paid for it,
Pay
but
back,
Pay back
pay
with
back the
wind.
general
Yeah,
fund.
we have, well, we've spent over $1 million.
Yep. And we
And
paid back how much so far? Have we paid back
really haven't
600?
paid anything back. It's just been, we had 400 and, before we got the new power, we had 429,000 approximately in there the last couple of years. So it's been going into general
so
revenue.
basically about 200 on 2020 and the same this year, roughly. So 400 of the million is theoretically back in.
Right.
So we got-
And I know we're just, you know, just shifting from one account to
Right.
another
Right.
account, that there's not actual direct payment of that.
Right.
No.
But again, we want to make it real clear to our citizens that that is how we paid to have that school cleaned up, so,
So we'd have to wait another 3 years probably to.
yeah,
Well, that's one thing I never know. I never knew
yep.
that we're using.
That, you thought it was coming out of levy money.
Well, people have accused me of spending county money on
Yeah.
cleaning up the school.
Yeah, because
That's what
if we would have had to levy for it, it wouldn't have happened.
Well, there's
No,
not
it
support
wouldn't
for
have- It'd still be standing there.
Yeah.
So that-
Falling in
that'll
on
help you
itself.
explain
Yeah.
to the constituents down there.
That never got explained well enough during the past,
Okay,
Yeah.
as I was a private citizen.
Yeah.
Now I know about it, so
Yeah.
now I can
When we
start.
had that wind project by Woodstock that came up, we got a lot more wind production tax. So that new money that was coming from that upgrade,
Yeah.
we earmarked to pay back to the demolition.
Stone Ray was.
Stone Ray,
that,
thank
so-
you.
Yeah.
And then there was another one, the Lake Benton too.
Yeah, that
That was a
increased also.
repower, but yeah.
Okay.
But
Those
it-
new monies that came from that is what we,
See, when I was on the Elmer Township Board, we only had one windmill in the township, so we did not see very much of anything. So,
Mhm. And of course, if we had more production or distribution capacity,
Transmission lines.
we could double the amount that we're currently
Yep.
taking in now
well, that one,
with no additional windmills.
that one in Elmer Township had the worst contract in the county, because that was the last one that turned on,
We'd be set.
first one that turned off, because it was all by itself.
Yeah,
Like Lincoln County.
yeah, that'd be a nice problem.
yeah, no, Lincoln County is, you know, they are
They're
really
washing
doing
it.
well in production tax, so.
They make,
Yeah, it's a poor county, but it's rich.
Right, yeah, they in Jackson, I think, do pretty well too,
well over $1 million, isn't it close to $2 million a year?
close to 2.
Yeah.
I think Lincoln eventually is gonna be, what, 2.5 for,
Yeah, they won't even need to levy the constituents.
In fact, I believe they're using some of theirs for their
Fiber.
broadband.
They use that.
They paid it all.
They
with
paid
that.
it all with that money.
775,000 they wrote a check for broadband.
wow.
But again, yeah, that's specifically why we had that explained that way, is that that's not coming out of the levy money, that came from wind production tax.
And of course, County Program 8, a few lines down, in the mid-2000s, that was almost 1.3 million. And then at the low point, it was less than 200,000.
No.
And then they got it back up to this, and they kind of brag it up, and you're thinking, well, it's really only 40-some% of what we got 15 years ago.
We felt that in the township too.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
big time.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being a commissioner back then when you had that much free money.
Would have been easy, right?
We come in at the time when we had to figure out how to make things work.
Tighten the belt, tighten the belt.
They should have replaced some bridges then.
Well, and the funny thing is, even with that big reduction, and obviously having to make up for it all those years, if you look at our average levy increase, we're still one of the lowest in the state,
Right.
and, you know, haven't had to,
And some of these counties keep spending and they just bond.
right, and I was gonna say, and we have no debt.
Yeah.
just to let you know, that number did change a little bit. It's now 574,945.
Yeah, we lost.
Due to the calculation method the state uses based on population and tax capacity.
574,
945.
okay.
Just got the report.
So that's
last
already almost, what, 70
$3,000.
down from last year?
No, it's down a little bit. Not because they cut it, it's just due to the calculations that they do.
That's county program aid you're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about wind energy.
No, 5209, the county program aid is down to 574,945. No, not wind production, that's,
I was gonna say-
we're at 630, leave that alone.
Yes. Only can go.
Take that as long as we can.
Say, we lost the money just sitting here.
Right, right. Yeah, I was wondering.
Nope, not that. Sorry about that. I thought I didn't explain it well. Police state aid, that's money that comes in from the state and it turns around and goes back out as well. So that's just an in and out. We get a little bit of money from the state natural resources and payment in lieu of taxes. That's for like public shooting grounds, that type of thing. She's got a couple different accounts for that up there because one comes from natural resources, another one comes from a different account. And we get a little bit on the federal side of it too for some federal land that they have in here, which hasn't changed much in the last, went up a little bit from 21. We don't have like national forests and things like that.
Right, I was gonna say, like some of the northern
Just don't have
counties,
a ton of
over
it.
half their revenue is from PILT,
Yeah,
payment in lieu of taxes.
the feds have been cutting that back as well too. Next one down, 5710 investment earnings. Talked during, but kind of at lunchtime, we're gonna back that down to 60,000. There's still no interest coming in, so from 125, we're gonna go to 60 on that. I mean, if you look at what we took in for the first, 7 months, $15,000 in interest, and we have tons of investment, but no income coming in from the investments.
And then it used to be
Magic fund is like
it used to be 300,000-400,000.
10% practically.
Yeah.
It's just terrible. So, we talked about insurance dividends, work comp insurance, printing, publishing, and advertising. That's where minutes get printed out of. Anything goes in the newspapers gets paid out of that.
Notices.
Notices, resolutions, that type of stuff that goes out to the
Help
public.
wanted?
No, that generally comes out of human resources.
Okay.
Professional services was generally legal fees and things like that. We don't know what that's necessarily be. I know we use that for when we have personnel issues where we need an attorney or labor relations, that type of thing, when we're working on contracts. There are issues we have to defer with an attorney, and that's obviously not MCIT. So we
Right.
have to
But
have,
that we lowered to 15.
lowered that to 15,000 since we
Yeah.
haven't been doing too much with it. Sure. So, and then property liability insurance is there, the 6379, that's my slush fund placeholder, so that's one that can be moved and changed a little bit, but
That's usually the last account
last thing
we'll
to go.
decide
Or
on.
find out where we're at the end and then adjust from there.
Because your new
I learned that
duty-
from Gordon Baden years ago, to have that in there.
With your new duties, you really need that.
Better believe it.
It's your latitude fund.
Attitude, so.
And in the years, like when the county was really struggling financially, they had a much larger number there in order to build back their reserves.
Oh, yeah, there were times when it was close to $500,000
Right.
in
Mhm.
there. Just to start building reserves, because they were so low in those days.
Yeah, at one point,
Some
I
issues.
think they were struggling to make payroll.
Yeah.
Hard to believe now, but yeah, in the early 90s or somewhere in there.
So the next page on 8, so the appropriations police state aid that goes out is paid out of that. There's always a little bit in there. The tax abatement, that's for the tax abatement program. The residential program is in there. We haven't paid out much this year. I think those checks go out, should be pretty soon. And that's about it for that. So I'll come up with a different total, but with the change, don't worry about the total at this time because we just made changes to it, so I'm not gonna worry about that. Want to hit travel management, I'll go as long as you guys want to stay.
And this has got, obviously, COVID funds on page 9.
COVID relief federal.
That's the old COVID money. That's from the ones we had earlier. That's not the ARPA money. That's not in here.
Oh, that 886 is not?
Yeah.
No. Oh, there, excuse me, just put that in there. Yep, it's here. He's got a different code for it, 2579.
Right.
if you want, right next to it, ARPA after federal, so you know what it is, what it means on.
Because that
bottom of page
256 is
9.
what we paid out to businesses and nonprofits
Right.
versus the ARPA money, which that's half of,
That's half of what we're
What we'll
getting, so
get.
we've got the money in the bank already, so.
right.
Drawn interest.
Yeah.
Oh, that big .1,
Yeah, we're making money on that.
.01
so.
or whatever it is. Not much.
Hardly worth the paper.
So, you want to continue, or do you want to end for today? You guys have been here a long time. It's up to you.
Where's a good place for you to stop at?
I can hit travel management, that's a slow one.
Yeah, that won't take long.
No, it's, the only change I've got there is I did put in there $35,000 for a replacement vehicle for the older of the 2 Equinoxes we have.
The 17.
The 17.
Still plan on
17.
keeping it, right?
What's that?
Still plan on keeping it, right? Or is it going to be traded?
I think about getting rid of it.
How
See
many
what
miles is
values
it?
are on
How
it.
many miles does it have?
About 60,000.
Hey, that's pretty low, really.
It is.
The market should be pretty hot on those
That's
right
what we're
now.
thinking and talking about it too. There might be a good time to do it next year with the prices the way they are too.
If there's a vehicle.
If we can find a vehicle
Right,
anyway.
right.
you know.
Well, I've noticed.
I mean, I'd even buy a 2020 or 21 that has the chips in it. I mean, somewhere there's gonna be a lot of nice 20s and 21s, I would think, that are sitting in parking lots over the country waiting for computer chips, so.
Right.
What I've been
Someday those are
told
gonna
is,
flood the market somehow.
I've been told that the manufacturers, that they've been building the vehicles and then temporarily put the chip in it to run it out to the parking lot.
Pull the chips
Pull
and
the
go back
CPU
in.
out of going back and put it in the next, so they've got an inventory of hardware out there without chips.
Right.
So now they're gonna stop making the vehicles and focus on getting the ones they got out in the parking lot finished and out and sold, instead of building such a large inventory.
They're gonna put the chips in and travel them out to the country and take the chips back out.
Yeah,
That's what
you think
I
so?
was
They're gonna
told.
go that far? They'd actually use them to get to the
Because they're
dealers?
running out of room in
Yeah.
their parking lots.
So sell them to the dealership, well, we'll make you a good deal on this vehicle. Oh, you want a
Just
chip with it
doesn't
too?
run.
That'll
Just
be
doesn't
extra.
run.
Need a check.
That'll be
Deal
extra.
off.
Well, I'd heard it takes them in the factory about 10 minutes to put the chip in, and when you do it out in the field, it takes like 2 hours to do it.
Oh, wow.
I mean, to remove everything and put it
Yeah,
back
that's a
in
big
the way
deal.
That
it's.
CPU.
And then how many will you damage or?
Well, exactly, yeah, because I don't know how many chips are in the big box that it's in. It's not like there's just one.
Well,
So, and it's, so,
Doesn't make
but
sense.
that's what I've got in there as a placeholder right now, so as we,
Would you sell
again,
that?
we get closer.
So would we sell the Equinox on min bid, or what were you thinking? Because I've noticed
Do that too, yeah.
some vehicles been getting some pretty good prices on there. You ever watch that site at all?
oh, yeah, I do.
I think we should get another all-wheel drive though.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't sell it before you get another one.
Yeah, like that.
We're not doing anything until we know what's going on, so, as I said, this is kind of holding a place right now, so, but, other than that, we're still getting all our fuel through WEX, so we get a discount on the taxes that are on that, so, which is like 27 cents a gallon off the pump price, so, so we don't have to pay the taxes on it, so that's, most of our fuel for these cars is all filled up at the gas stations. We don't go to the highway shop for those, because it's easier for somebody on the road to go use the WEX card and fill up, so that's why I just do it that way. It's a lot easier, so I figured better put some more in there, so I put $1,800 instead of $13, so we know it's gone up a little bit, so.
Next year, we'll be on the road a little more than we were this year.
Oh, absolutely. And the assessors are already using the 17 Equinox for appraising. They're out about every day now running around, so things are getting back to normal that way. As you know, meetings are starting to open up a little bit, so, you as commissioners are always welcome to use the cars too. That's what they're there for, whatever works for you, so.
How many cars does the county have? 2?
Yeah.
Well, actually, the county owns a lot.
Yeah,
of
we got a
vehicles.
lot. For travel management,
For
we have
those,
two.
yeah.
Travel management.
17 Equinox and a 19.
So we can't take a dump truck to our next meeting or?
Depends on what we're hauling, I guess.
Well, I've taken a squad before.
Yeah, but you were in the back seat.
Back seat doesn't count, Les.
No, I was in the front.
So should we do committee reports quick? Get that out of the way?
Mine is quick.
Okay, we'll let you start then.
Okay. Got mine back. Okay. On the 8th, I had soil and water on, like computer was going bad, or printer's going bad. 12, plant ops at the hospital. We all heard that report at the board meeting. 14th, Southwest Mental Health in Laverne. That was held at Take 16. They had rented the building for the one big room for an all-staff meeting that day. So they kept it for the night, and we had our meeting there, and they had a keg of root beer. I said, there's a keg in the back room. Let's go.
That 1919 root beer is good out of a keg like that.
And Chris missed it.
By a few blocks.
And then on the 21st, had Southwest Health Human Services. Wasn't anything big that happened there, was there, Dan? It was a short meeting again.
Are you hearing anything about levy?
No.
I guess maybe the one thing to point out from that meeting, and I don't know, it actually came out the day after that meeting, is that our accountant up there has gotten another job as well. She's moving on, so we're gonna have a vacancy up there. So Sarah's done a great job for us.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't heard anything on our budget.
No.
Then on the 28th, we had radio board.
Yep.
On the first, Prime West was scheduled, but it was canceled. We usually do end up canceling the July meeting because it's always real close to the 4th.
Yep.
So,
But do we want to touch on August then? So we did, you want to wait with August?
yeah, let's leave.
It's just that it was in person. We had our first in-person one in August. So.
And that's the end of my report.
Okay. Chris?
I don't have my notes with me, so I'll try to make the best of what I got. But
Make it up as you go.
Yeah, I guess. On the 8th, I had the SRDC annual meeting, and that was at that Take 13 brewery. The day before Southwestern Mental Health, and yeah, that was a nice location. But rather than go and cover all the projects they did, like over the last year's J trustees, I think he said 11th or 12th year. So all he did was chronicle all what has happened over his years on the board and all the changes. So it was just basically a J trustee meeting. On the 12th, I had Towards Zero Death, Lincoln Pipestone County Safe Road Coalition. That was held on Zoom still. Not a whole lot to report except for deaths are up quite a bit, and majority of them are speed-related deaths. I don't want to throw numbers out there that aren't accurate, but I mean it's considerably higher than previous years, as well as alcohol-related. And then on the 19th, I had a law liaison meeting with Dan there. It was our first one almost a year and a half due to COVID.
Oh.
So really, we just kind of recapped, and there wasn't a whole lot there as far as business goes, except they had Edison Degler come in. He gave us the numbers for just the city of Pipestone on all the amounts of drugs that they've gotten versus seizure and searches, and it was just staggering.
The thing that astounded me is that they're starting to see heroin again. It was the one in LSD.
LSD.
They're starting to see LSD
Really?
again.
So through informants, they were able to buy, 12 hits of LSD so far this year, which they haven't seen like over decades, they said, since they've seen that around here. And then the big one was this THC wax. Now, they hadn't got a whole lot from traffic stops. They had less than a gram. But through seizures, it was almost 3,500 grams of this THC wax, which is a felony, automatic felony, no matter what amount you have of it, because it's processed. And so he said the one individual, a lot of it came out of one big mason jar. But
You want to touch on the gummies as well, too?
so here they're saying in South Dakota you can buy CBD products over the counter where I work in the gift shop. You can buy them there. But what people are doing is then going to the marijuana dispensary and swapping it out, putting the marijuana THC gummies in ones that say CBD, trying to get around the process. So when they're going testing these gummies and candies, they're getting THC on them, not the CBD. So just trying to be tricky, but not smart enough. Then for PCMC, we had a board meeting on the 27th, and then I believe it was the 30th, Luke, that I sat in with you on executive. I couldn't.
Yeah,
Was that the 30th?
I think so.
Yeah. And that's all I had for meetings in July.
Okay. Else?
July 13th, regular meeting. The the next 3 days, we had Government 201 in Minneapolis, or St. Paul. Steve was there also, so I'm a little nervous giving a report, because he's gonna either contradict me or...
He'll help you.
Maybe we'll work together on that.
Okay. And first day, they had different things for us to... The first one was the government. We kept our legislators' number by 46 people in the census. That's all the... Otherwise, New York would have kept theirs and we would have lost one.
I didn't know the official census information was out yet.
Yes.
Okay.
It's in the government process, it's not out to the people yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what the person said. Baby boomers are aging, that's no surprise. The rural's older than metro. And they had one on open meetings. They've been open since '57. Public comment, you have a 5-minute limit at the beginning or the end of a meeting. I had a lawyer on ethics, avoid the appearance of impropriety, and if you can't vote on it, don't talk on it. And the next day, we started out bright and early with Robert's Rules of Order, which a former Marine, former SEAL, former whatever, remember all the things he had?
The colonel, I think he was, too.
I was wondering why he had so many formers in there, but can't you stick to say something?
A lot of years in the
Can't keep a
military.
job.
He was very good, though. And the legislature doesn't use Robert's rules. They use Mason's rules. And I didn't know that before. 4 things he talked about is who's here today, past precedent, standing rules, and Robert's rules. And the person who makes the motion has the first right to speak to it. And then we had Dave Bartholomew, and people have a right to be different. CAVE is his acronym, Citizens Against Virtually Everything. Everybody's got them, you know. But nothing we can do about that. And then we did the Clifton Strengths in the afternoon. I had never heard of it before, but my son has done it with his council in church several times. My daughter knew about it. So he knows his 5 strengths by heart. So one of his is woo. He's wooing others over. He's a pastor, so that's a good strength for him to have. So. But the upshot of the whole day was to value other people's gifts. We did small groups with different people. And July 16th, the last day, media relations. We had 2 ladies that were both employed by Hennepin County, correct? One was a media person and one was a television thing.
Yeah, she came from background in TV and both, they were excellent.
They were, silence is toxic was what main thing about their thing is you can go up there and talk about something even if you don't say anything. And one of their quotes was from Henry Kissinger, who has the questions for my answers? That's what he would say when he'd go to a news conference. Mm-hmm. I'm going to answer I'm going to say the same thing, but you got to say a question. And the last session I missed because I had to get back for a parade appearance, so. That
was a commissioner's roundtable.
Yeah.
I had to leave too. I get going back too, so I didn't stay for that one.
I told them I had to be in a parade, so they all knew that was an acceptable excuse for them. Yeah. So I had to get back for the Dutch Festival parade. And then July 26th is Rural Minnesota Energy Board. Jason DeRuyter came and did a presentation. He talked more at that program than I've heard him speak in the last 20 years. He's a working fool. He's a
very passionate,
good worker.
Yep.
What was that committee again?
The Rural Energy Board.
Oh, RMEB, thanks.
Yeah,
and he was talking about how they are not getting enough from their power purchase agreements to make it, and how they're getting cut.
The first ones are running out. That's the problem.
Yep.
And they were down into the $33, and now they're into the low 20s.
Yep.
And he said we can't make it on the 20s. And spot pricing, he said, was 2 cents a kilowatt, which is in the 20s. He's working on getting that power.
He was looking to us for support on the legislative front.
Yeah, you were there in person. I was watching it. And then regular meeting 27th, 28th, TAC meeting. Minnesota DOT is still financing all the rides for 2021. Did I get that correctly? They're not charging any fares?
Oh, for transit, okay, it took me a second to get caught up with you. That's correct, yeah, they're still not charging fares.
And Mass still September 13th. That's, Dan was at that too, so that's my, for today.
On the July 1st, we had our Casey Jones Trail meeting. That was an in-person one in Slayton. And I can't, you made it to that one, didn't you, or not? You were at the one, of course, last night, but the one July 1st, I can't remember if you were there or not.
No, I wasn't able to miss that one.
You had missed that one. But basically what we did is we talked about trying to do what we did last night. We had the people from DNR come, and they've got the overhead maps of as we had it all laid out so we could see all the way from Pipestone up to Walnut Grove, where the old rail line used to run. And again, with the actual, when Casey Jones was enacted back in the 70s, what was the term? It was when it was first designated trail, it said on there specifically that it had to go through certain spots. One of those, of course, being up at Walnut Grove, it has to go through the county park, and it has to go into Walnut Grove. Same thing, how it goes along there. So we laid these all out and tried to figure out, we got this here, we got this section here. By Curry, you got the Curry Loop going up around the state park. So how do we connect all these dots together? So just we realized the enormity of the project itself, but have it all laid out and taped together out on the tables to kind of see where we're trying to go. So
Any progress on changing the trail designation to that status 1 instead of 2 or whatever?
Yeah, it wasn't discussed last night, but we have discussed it in the past, and I got the impression that Weber is going to try to do something for us. So
he would be the one that could get it through with where he stands in the state, whatnot, and the power he can pull, and this is in his district, so he'd be the one
that takes legislative action.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we need to write him a letter or what, but.
Yeah. So that was on the 1st. Then on the 7th, in Southwest Health and Human Services, we had a personnel committee meeting also separate from our other meetings, and we talked about this nurse-family partnership. And again, I think we talked about that before, how that's just for first-time mothers only. And they're saying there's such a need for multiple children going forward, but the 2 programs, because of the workload, it can't be just one program, it has to be 2 separate programs. We talked about how it is duplicated. I still don't fully comprehend how it would not be cheaper to have combined, but we've been told it's not. It has to be 2 separate programs. So we did bring that recommendation then to the full group. Then we had that meeting then on the 21st. We did talk about that, and they did adopt to go forward with that. Also on the 21st, we forgot about that, we actually hired a new position, the first actual new position we have approved hiring for 2 years, 3 years.
2.5.
Yeah, and it's a new position, but it is and it isn't, because it is one that we had discontinued a year or so ago. So it is technically a new position, and it's a budget neutral position because it gets paid for through the various, whether it be a federal or a state grant where it pays. But the kicker on those is you have to be really diligent about making sure that they code their hours correctly, that it actually does come out of that grant and doesn't come out of the general fund. So that was the other thing for that one on the 21st. On the 8th, we had our Pipestone Area Coalition. They approved then the expenditure then of the money for the bounce houses for the fishing rodeo derby that we talked about. Did I talk about that, how we don't have any fish this year?
Right.
Yeah, we did talk about that. So we're still going forward with that, and they're going to participate with us as well on that. Also, the Area Coalition, that their original grant that they operated on, that one has now been sunsetted, and there's a new grant that they're operating on now. But it's still being administered through Southwest Health and Human Services, but it's a different program. I don't fully understand the difference between the programs. But then on the 18th, the Southwest 18 Mental Health Consortium, that was still a Zoom meeting. We are going to meet in person this next one, which is coming up Friday, actually, our next first in-person Southwest 18 Mental Health Consortium. So that's why I was really interested in what they had to say here about what they're talking about with financial support and how those programs work for housing and how that all works together. Then Chris mentioned on the 19th, we had our Law Enforcement Liaison. Also on the 19th, we had our SMOC annual meeting that was held at Sterling's down in Laverne. First in-person meeting we've had for a while. Neil Steffel, our administrator, our director, that he announced again that this will be his last one, that he's leaving us. Then in February, he'll be retiring out. So we'll start that search process as well, too. Also, of course, we had a change. Gene Metz had been the chair. He's no longer the chair, and now trying to think of her name. She lives in Worthington. Is the new chair this year? Cheryl Navarre. I can't pronounce her name correctly. And she's very aggressive. We'll get some things done. We talked about Southwest Health and Human Services on the 21st. The 26th, you talked about Southwest Solid Waste, which I'll leave solid waste for you. And then we talked in the afternoon, we had our rural energy, which you covered as well. And then on the 28th, we had transit, which we already covered. So thanks, guys.
Okay. On the 14th, they had District 8 land use, and then Kyle and I went to an agronomy day in Marshall where they had some soil health presentations, and ironically, they had a tent set up, and the weather was fine until we got there, and it was just downpouring during part of the demo, when they're trying to talk to you, and the rain was so loud off the tent you could hardly hear the person. Luckily, we were sitting close, but I'm sure people farther away had a hard time. But that was kind of interesting. And then on the 15th and 16th, the MHA hospital conference, it was all online this year due to COVID, but the usual federal state updates and a lot of other sessions. On the 19th, it was at the SMOC annual meeting, and it's amazing how they adjusted so well to what they had, where they have to deal with people in person all the time, and yet we're working from home, or maybe there were a few in the office, but it sounds like somehow they made it work. And
really give kudos, though, to the Head Start people, because they were face-to-face, one-on-one with the kids.
Right.
They didn't have that luxury of working remotely, and they did a stellar job.
They did. And on the 20th, I went with Dan Larson from the Rural County Group to both Rock and Lincoln County boards to present on behalf of the Rural County Group. And then I also gave a presentation for the Highway 23 Coalition, since I was there anyway. And then on the 21st, AMC had me testify before the EQB board on climate change and greenhouse gas unfunded mandates being added to the environmental worksheet process. It was very interesting, but troubling how, basically they're just going to move along whether you like it or not. And we kept asking, well, even some of their own committee members were asking, well, what is the goal here? Are we trying to, achieve a certain amount of decrease in greenhouse gas emissions, or are we just looking to shut down projects and increase costs? And they really never gave a solid answer to that, nor did they, they couldn't tell you what's the standard way to calculate these things that you're supposed to add to the environmental worksheet. What was, this, they couldn't define their goals, and of course, we kept saying, really the legislature should be weighing in, it shouldn't be done by unelected people that can just decide on their own. But all the agency staff, of course, would say stuff like, well, we're feeling a sense of urgency and we have to do something now. And but yet they don't really seem to know what they're wanting to do now, but they're going to do it regardless. On the 22nd, Prime Health met, and of course, we talked earlier about the 7.4% increase for health insurance. The 26th, the regional solid waste, it was pretty routine. I guess they're going to have to update their 10-year plan coming up, and they're kind of in the beginning stages of doing that. On 27th, we had our hospital board. On the 3rd, we met for that special hospital meeting related to the refinancing of the bonds, which we approved earlier. On the 5th, Area 2 and RCRCA had several new projects complete, of course, because of all the good weather. And hopefully they're going to start getting some pipe in place, hopefully later in the year. But the dredging company is finishing up in Duluth Harbor right now, removing whatever from the bottom of the harbor. And I'm sure that's a never-ending project. That's a pretty big harbor. And then yesterday, we had that little board education session, plant ops, and Highway 23 Coalition Legislative and Marketing Committee met, and that's about all I have. Is there anything else to be brought up today?
Upcoming meetings, we got AMC coming up September 16th and 17th. And then there's an add-on session there on that Wednesday. And it looks like, I think Health and Human Services is because that conflicted with our usual Southwest Health and Human Services. I think we're going to reschedule that the way it looks. Or,
That's going to get rescheduled to the 8th, I think.
yep, because of that meeting on the 15th, because I know Beth wanted to also go up there for that. Because I think the 15th, was that a legislative update? Is that what that special session was? I can't remember what that
I
program
was thinking it was something about how to deal with like politicized issues and whatnot.
So, yeah. So plan on going to that.
And then, of
Politically
course,
charged atmosphere or something
That's
like
right.
that.
Yeah, there you go.
Dealing with,
Yep.
and then the rural county group will meet that evening too. Of course, you're all welcome to attend. The AMC board will be meeting that morning.
Jason mentioned We Are Water when he's here this morning too, and I didn't put that down because that's not an official county thing that I'm doing, but I've been involved in that as well too. And in fact, Jody did a presentation today at Kiwanis about it as well too. And like I said, she's going to be partnering with, they're going to a dairy. They're going to, is it Hilltop Dairy? I think they're going to next. Talk about how important water is in agriculture and everything else too, and how it involves. So it actually runs all the way through September. So they've got displays out at the library, so certainly encourage you guys to go out there and check out those displays.
I was out there and saw it.
You did? What did you think of it?
It's good.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
and I have reservations made for the 3 of you that are going to the conference.
Yep.
3 nights for Les and Dan, 3 nights for Luke.
Yep.
I requested upper floors. She said, I called early enough, she said it shouldn't be a problem.
Great,
And your registrations are in for AMC already too, so you're good to go.
perfect.
I will go to the AMC one
You're gonna go?
in December.
Oh, December, okay, great.
Is everyone gonna go to that?
Show
December?
of hands, who's going in December?
That's my thing, 'cause
Okay.
that's the one that's gonna be up at Triple.
Doublewood,
Bloomington.
Doubletree.
Double tree.
Bloomington.
Yep, that's a nice one.
I was talking to one of the guys that was working at the Continental when Dallas and I were up there, that was actually the bartender there, and said that place has gone through like a 500.
Where did you run into him?
Who?
The bartender.
At the bar. I got a beer. So, anyway, but they've done a huge remodel to the Doubletree, like $500,000 or
Oh,
something.
good.
That's huge.
They
And
kinda
so you won't
needed
even
that.
recognize the place.
To the Doubletree or to the Continental?
Doubletree.
Oh, to the Doubletree. Oh, that was nice before.
Yeah, that's fine.
The Intercontinental is suffering
Yeah, yeah.
because of not a lot of people going to downtown St. Paul anymore. And one of the guys said that many people have had apartments in downtown, really nice place. They've moved out. He said 5,000 to 7,000 people or more have left downtown
Wow,
just because of the issues that are going on in the metro area.
bet the number's bigger in Minneapolis.
Could be, yeah, so. But at any rate, once I see information on that conference, probably won't hear about that till probably late October, early November, I'm guessing, so we'll get those in for
And again,
everybody.
the nice thing is, it's a large enough facility, you don't have to fight for a room. We can all get housing there, it's not a problem, so.
Yeah.
Well,
That's all I've got.
motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Les?
All those in favor?
Chris?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you much.
Thank you.
All day. That's not gonna have you.
The next meeting won't be as long.
That was just the afternoon, right? The next budget one?